SLV isn't a silver bar, it's a claim. And in a $64 market, one overlooked clause can decide whether you get metal, or just a payout when everyone else is fighting for ounces. Before you trust the ticker, you need to know who's allowed to redeem. When you buy a big silver ETF like SLV, you are not buying a silver bar. You're buying a share, an electronic claim, inside a structure that is designed to track a price. And in calm markets, that difference feels harmless. You click buy, your brokerage confirms the fill, and the screen tells you own silver. But late 2025 is not a calm market. Silver is flashing $64 on the screen, yet in the real world, coins, bars, 1,000 ounces good delivery bars, the story is turning into a completely different animal: delayed shipments, widening premiums, rationing, call for availability, and, quietly, a growing suspicion that the paper market is quoting one reality while the physical market is living another. This is where the psychological trap is set. Because the average person's mental model is simple: if I own SLV, I own silver. If I ever need the silver, I can convert. That assumption is the entire product's comfort blanket. It's the bridge that keeps people inside paper, instead of demanding metal. And that is exactly why you have to read the prospectus. Not because it's exciting. It's not. It's deliberately boring, hundreds of lines of legal language designed to do one thing: make sure that, when the system is under stress, the system has exits, and you don't. Here's the problem in one sentence: the ETF can function perfectly as a trading vehicle while failing as a metal access vehicle. And those are two totally different promises. In a normal environment, the ETF price stays close to the silver spot price because of a mechanism called creation and redemption. Big institutions, authorized participants, the inner circle, can deliver metal to the trust and receive new shares, creation, or deliver shares and receive metal, redemption. That's the plumbing. That's what's supposed to keep the ETF honest, because if the ETF drifts too far from the price of silver, the pros step in and arbitrage the gap. But notice what I just said: the pros. The inner circle. Retail holders do not redeem for metal. Not in practice. Not at your brokerage. Not with your 200 shares, or even your 2,000 shares. The redemption mechanism is effectively a private highway reserved for institutions with the right agreements, the right custody chains, and the ability to move basket quantities. For everyone else, the ETF is a cash market product with a silver theme. That distinction matters, because in a real supply event, the kind of event that creates $64 silver in the first place, the only thing that matters is deliverability. Not the chart. Not the headline. Deliverability. Now here's where the prospectus language becomes a weapon, not a warning. Most people think the ETF's job is to guarantee metal backing, full stop. But the prospectus is written to protect the trust, protect the sponsor, protect the custodians, protect the market makers, by giving them flexibility in extraordinary circumstances. And what is an extraordinary circumstance? That's the point. It's broad. It's a moving target. It's exactly the kind of phrase that can cover a physical shortage, a disruption in the bullion market, a custody chain issue, a transport freeze, a regulatory restriction, a liquidity event, a clearing failure, or a sudden inability to source bars without blowing up the market. In plain English, if the system gets stressed, the documents often allow the system to change the rules of the game. This is why I call it the cash settlement trap. Because the cash settlement outcome is the one outcome that preserves the paper system while sacrificing your reason for being there: metal access. If silver is truly scarce, cash becomes the consolation prize. You do not want consolation. You want the asset that everyone is scrambling for. Think about the nightmare scenario from the holder's perspective. You bought ETF shares because you wanted silver exposure with liquidity. You told yourself, if it ever gets serious, I'll convert, I'll move into physical, I'll take delivery, I'll protect myself. Then the serious moment arrives. Silver prints $64. Volatility spikes. Physical premiums widen. Dealers ration supply. Lead time stretch. Social media is full of sold out signs. So you do what any rational person would do, you try to turn the paper into the thing it represents. And that is precisely when the legal structure reminds you what you actually own. You own shares that can be sold for cash at the market price. That's it. You can exit into dollars, into the same currency that is melting while silver is repricing. In a shortage event, being forced into cash is not a feature. It's a trapdoor. Now, to be fair, the ETF does not advertise cash settlement in giant letters on the front page. The public messaging is always the same, backed by silver, tracks the price, simple exposure. The hard edges live in the risk factors and operational sections, redemption limitations, reliance on specific counterparties, custody terms, sub-custodian risks, market disruption clauses, and language that essentially says, the trust is not your personal bullion warehouse. The structure is optimized for one thing, maintaining a tradable product. Not guaranteeing that you personally can obtain metal in a crisis. And once you understand that, you start seeing the conflict clearly. Paper markets are designed to clear. Physical markets are designed to deliver. Clearing is easy. You type numbers into accounts. Delivery is hard. You need bars, assay standards, vault capacity, transport, insurance, and a functioning chain of custody. In 2025, that physical chain is what's tightening. This is where the price becomes a misleading comfort. Because the spot price can be a paper-clearing price, a number discovered in a leveraged derivatives arena, while the real physical price becomes something else, spot plus premium, or spot plus availability, or spot plus weight. And if you're holding paper during that divergence, you're holding the instrument most likely to be paid out in the one asset everyone is trying to escape, cash. So the real problem we're defining today is not, can SLV move with silver? It usually can. The real problem is, can SLV deliver silver when silver is the point? And the moment you ask that question, you are forced to confront a set of uncomfortable truths that most investors never want to read. 1. You are not the redeemer. Institutions are. 2. The redemption process is not a consumer right, it's a market maker mechanism. 3. The custody chain is complex, layered, and dependent on multiple entities functioning normally. 4. The trust documents are written with escape hatches for abnormal markets. 5. A working ETF does not prove abundant metal. It only proves that cash settlement and share trading still function. Here's the psychological punchline: the more bullish the environment gets, the more silver becomes strategic, the more industrial users panic, the more shortages spread, the more likely it becomes that the paper system prioritizes continuity of trading over continuity of delivery. Because trading can be stabilized with rules, margins, halts, and cash. Delivery cannot. You can raise margins on a futures exchange. You can halt trading. You can widen spreads. You can change position limits. You can manage volatility. But you cannot print bars. That's why the prospectus matters. It is the document that quietly tells you what happens when bars are the one thing the market can't source easily. And right now, with $64 silver and a physical market that keeps whispering, tight, the prospectus isn't just legal paperwork. It's the map of who gets priority when the exit door narrows. The biggest mistake retail can make in this phase of the cycle is thinking they're standing in the same line as the institutions. You're not. The inner circle has mechanisms. They have relationships. They have custody infrastructure. They can negotiate sourcing, leases, swaps, and baskets. They can act before the panic becomes public. You have a brokerage account and a sell button. And if the system decides that the cleanest way to keep the machine running is to settle obligations in cash, your silver position can become a dollar position at the exact worst time, right when dollars are being rejected and metal is being demanded. So in this section, I'm not asking you to hate ETFs. I'm defining the problem correctly. The problem is the gap between the story people believe, paper is basically the same as physical, and the story the documents actually tell, paper is paper, and in stress, paper prioritizes settlement, not delivery. If you understand that gap, you stop watching the $64 number like it's a guarantee of anything. You start watching the only thing that matters in a real shortage: who can get metal, how fast, at what premium, and under what conditions. Because when the market crosses a certain line, exposure is no longer the goal. Access is.